This week on Across the Arrowverse, now she's a brunette, we watched Supergirl the movie. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm your host Matthew Vose and I'm joined by Catherine Kay.
Hi everyone.
This week we watched the 1984 movie Supergirl.
I'm so sorry, Matthew.
So this was one that we had listed to do as a possible bonus episode in future because of the tie-in completely. It is Supergirl again. Supergirl's mother from the TV show, Helen Slater, plays Supergirl in the movie. And Catherine, you were the one who really wanted to watch this.
Well, I had a memory of having really enjoyed it as a child. Clearly, I didn't remember it very well. Because, yeah, I must admit, there were elements of the story that on rewatching, I was like, oh, yes, I remember this bit. But overall, it's a bit pants, really, isn't it?
Yeah. This might be a short one, guys. This was not a good movie. I'm not sure it's a good movie if we wanted to talk about it from it's a female superhero movie. It's not really great in those terms because it ends up being all about a man. Some of the performances are a little ropey. There's a couple of people in here that I think are just picking up their paycheck.
Definitely.
Yeah. So how do you want to approach this? Do you want to talk about the plot?
Okay, that'll take 2 seconds. Weird bauble gem.
Yeah.
Flies out
Omega Hedron.
Omega Hedron. Vital to the powering of whatever city it was, which seems to be under tarpaulin whilst they make statues in the garden.
Argo City.
Flies out of the tarpaulin window, lands next to some witches on Earth, hotly pursued by Supergirl.
Kara Zor-El.
Yes. Who has hijinks, half dressed in a school uniform, and actually that sounded worse than it was, but half of the time dressed as a schoolgirl.
Schoolgirl, college girl, preparatory school, possibly they're all in their 20s, but also dressing like they're in their 16s.
Yeah, not sure. Maybe it was even like college.
Yeah, with a uniform.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, very, very loose hijinks. The witches get the magic bauble and do suitably but fairly low-level evil things.
Yeah.
And Supergirl saves everyone at the end of the day.
Yes. And Peter O'Toole is there.
Yes. And Peter Cook's there too.
Peter Cook is there.
Yes. I don't know. It was a very... It was not earth-shattering.
No. And I think almost more problematic, there are lots of questions in this. She suddenly has the Supergirl outfit on, getting out of the capsule, and then she suddenly becomes her Linda Lee disguise in a schoolgirl outfit with brown hair now, where she was very, very blonde. And somehow she can just disguise herself as that. And now her heat vision is also life-giving flower vision. It was all ropey. It was very obvious this was the same people who took over Superman 2. Because of that weird thing. You remember the end of Superman 2 where suddenly he can peel his S off his chest and imprison people on it? And he can make himself disappear and become a hologram?
I don't know if I've even seen that.
Have
I seen Superman 2?
Yeah, we remember we watched the end of it, and he fights Zod and Ursa and Non in the city, and then he takes them to the Fortress of Solitude.
Yep.
And Lex Luthor is there, and Lois Lane is there.
Yes, I remember this bit.
And he tries to trick them by... He can make himself appear like he's in multiple places at once.
Yes,
like his hologram.
I have seen
And
this.
he can peel the S off his chest and it wraps people up like a sort of cling film thing.
Yes, why didn't he just do that earlier?
Oh, and then at the end he kisses Lois Lane and it erases her memory. So there's Superman 2, which is by the Salkinds, and the Salkinds did the Superman series and then did Supergirl as well, and made all these changes in Superman 2 that made it become a rubbish film because he invents powers. They didn't even try not doing that for Supergirl. She suddenly gets random powers, and the Omega Hedron, they don't really explain it, it just gives the witch powers.
Yeah, I think I saw it almost like a super battery.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whatever you were up to, the Omega Hedron made it bigger and better.
Yeah.
Which then raised the questions in my mind of, if these witches actually did have witchy powers, which they must have done to start off with, because I don't think the Omega Hedron created new power.
No.
It just enhanced, or I got the impression it enhanced the
Yeah.
stuff that was already going on. Well, why were they so crappy?
Yeah.
You know? Especially like some of the, like, what was this evil demon thing that suddenly peed on everyone's chips at the end?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was all very confusing. I think, and watching the film, this is a very strange thing to have remembered. The scene from the film that had stuck with me the most from my childhood was the girl with the weird sparkly red lips, glasses, with the very blonde hair that got turned upside down and spun around at the witchy party at the start.
Okay.
And that's the bit that I remembered the most strongly.
How strange.
Which says an awful lot about the film to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Yeah, because, okay, so the plot doesn't really... Not even that it doesn't make sense, it's just not good. And then there's bits of it that don't make sense. And then the crux of the plot becomes not necessarily about the Omega Hedron, but about a man. And that's not necessary.
And he's also not even a man that anyone has known very well. He's just had his top off and happens to have a few pectoral muscles.
Yeah.
And therefore, of course, all the women in the film go goo-goo over him. It's a bit like,
So you know there's the Bechdel test.
Yes.
And there's the Mako-Mori test. There is a joke test beyond that called the sexy lamp test.
Okay.
Which is, can you replace a female character with a sexy lamp and have the same impact on the story?
Oh, that's him, isn't it?
And he is a sexy lamp, effectively. In the same way Lois Lane often is in the Superman films, he is now the sexy lamp.
Yeah. And it doesn't work nicely either way round.
No, not at all. But
So...
he brings nothing to it. There is no purpose to him except that's how you write these stories at this time.
Yeah. Meh.
Terrible.
On the other hand, I actually didn't think Supergirl did a bad job of being Supergirl.
Yeah, she's good as Supergirl. Linda Lee, a bit less so. There's not much to Linda Lee.
Yeah.
Her the equivalent of Clark Kent, her secret identity. But yeah, as Supergirl, once she gets to Earth, she's fairly strong, but she's joyous. Which is what Supergirl is supposed to be. She's supposed to be lower level stories than Superman, who does these giant city-destroying or world-destroying stories.
Yeah.
She does more local things, more learning how to deal with your powers from the scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like her before she got to Earth.
No.
A bit of a spoilt child. A bit dim as well, I thought they painted her as. I don't know what they were trying to get at by going, oh yeah, she's a bit bad at maths, but hey, you're an artist, just think about your dreams.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't quite know where the scene is going. Are you trying to tell us she's actually just not that bright? Don't know.
Yeah, and her interaction with Peter O'Toole is a bit weird because it's basically an exposition dump for what the Omega Hedron is and where they are. And then she takes it and goes off playing and creates a dragonfly. Giant dragonfly.
And it flies out of the flimsiest window in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, like you say, they're covered in the tarp and they're in inner space.
Whatever
I don't know what that means.
At the beginning, it was entertaining me tracking what my opinion of Supergirl was. And at first, I went from a little dim, spoiled child, and then to Snow White. She appears to be sleeping in the forest with the animals.
With forest creatures coming up to her. What? Okay, the wire works really good when she's flying around.
Yes, and I don't think the effects were generally bad.
No, it's filmed nicely. You can see that they are doing it as practical effect, making her fly around. So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for what they did there. It felt they clearly learned from doing the work with Christopher Reeve, and I bet it was a lot easier to lift up Helen Slater than Christopher Reeve, because he was like 200 pounds. So,
best thing of the film for me.
Go on.
The fact that the villains were called Selena and Nigel.
Yeah, right?
I love it. Whoa, the dread Nigel. Apologies to any Nigels out there. It's a lovely name.
Yeah, great name. I don't think you'd have a career as a villain. I think even Nigel, hello Nigel, would agree that you'd change your name at that point.
Yeah. Exactly. I did quite enjoy Selena.
Yes. Yeah, she does a very, very good part. She doesn't quite camp it up, a little bit at the end, but you can sort of buy into it.
Yeah.
The verisimilitude of being a witch in this universe.
Yeah, she's a little pantomime villain, and not in the campy way, but just I am. Well, to be honest, she's a little bit like the Lex Luthor that they had in those Superman films to a certain extent. Just I want, and therefore I shall take, and I have no morals.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't mind a little black and white in my films.
No, her sidekick, Bianca, played by the woman who would go on to be Joey Tribbiani's mum. Was basically the best thing I could find that she'd been in. It's really strange that they give them these sidekicks who are sort of everyman types and commentate on what's going on. That, for me, dates it more than anything else. This kind of 80s sensibility of, I'm going to comment on what's going on to the open air because it's funny.
And I suppose the whole villain plus slightly dimmer sidekick is just a common trope, isn't it? I think it's so common that I haven't really even... I didn't really even think to wonder about it. Yeah.
The good thing is they don't do it in modern superhero films. So certainly the MCU never went into it. I mean, the MCU has its own villain problem going on with the shouty, angry, and then we're going to kill them. But at least they don't have this thing, the bumbling person or the layabout person with them. So yeah, this is very much the sort of thing they had in this, and they had a little bit in the Batman films that came later as well. So, what else do we want to comment on? The Ethan, the dude that the film became about.
Oh, the gardener.
Yes, he is Ellis from Die Hard. He is the guy who hits on Connie and ends up shot by Alan Rickman.
Yeah. I bought that role better than this role.
He was a lot better in that. And it was a little bit strange because he felt like he was 30 or in his 30s. And again, we don't know if this is a prep school, an elementary school. They never really aged. I mean, the girls were living there and felt a bit more grown up, but also are in a uniform.
And they needed passes to be signed out at the weekend, which says to me under 18. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what Americans do.
No, but they're in classes. It was like a high school. Maybe seniors, but still... Yeah. So we've mentioned Faye Dunaway, who was quite good. Peter O'Toole was also there. Mia Farrow as Allura didn't do much because we never saw. I always expected her to get back to Argo City and see her returning the Omega Hedron, but that never happened.
Yeah, because Mia Farrow didn't do very much.
She was
at
barely
all,
in
did
it.
she?
Apparently, there is an extended version, so I wonder if she's more in that. Peter Cook as Nigel looked bored. Yeah. He was absolutely just picking up the paycheck, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, he probably was like, what have I signed up to do? They told me this was going to be my big break into films in the States.
Yeah. And then you had him turning up and being mocked for wearing a leisure suit or something, but they don't actually show what he's wearing, and it appears to be just a coat.
Very strange. Can we go back to Peter O'Toole as Zaltar?
Oh, do we have to?
Well, only because of the fact that somehow Peter O'Toole and Supergirl managed to escape the Phantom Zone by just walking against some strong wind.
Oh, no, he died.
Oh, well, okay, he died.
He sacrifices himself because they can't both make it through the tornado and fireballs and...
But it just seemed that there was an awful lot of people that get imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. Yeah. And if it was that easy to get out, that some of them would have got out. Yeah.
And I'm sure in Superman 1 and 2, the Kryptonians are in the Phantom Zone, and they're basically trapped in the 2D square thing, and that is the Phantom Zone. Yeah, just drifting through space, rather than weird swampy planet.
Weird, dark, drippy place.
Yeah. I'm not sure what else I want to say.
I think I just want to say, don't bother watching it if you haven't seen it before.
Don't watch this film. It's really not that good. And I'm not sure I can even say it was bad. it didn't make sense in places, and we were utterly bored. And we paused it at one point, and it still had half an hour to go, and it felt like it'd been on for hours. We had to get more alcohol. And that was what got us through it.
Yeah, it's not even bad enough to be good.
Yeah. Nice reference to the Lane family, with Lucy Lane in it. Jimmy Olsen was in this as well. You couldn't even replace him with a sexy lamp. I don't know why he was here, other than to have that connection. There was apparently Christopher Reeve was meant to be in this, but he couldn't, so they then had a line on the radio of he's in a distant galaxy. The head teacher at the school was Mr. Danvers, so there's our tie-in to the Danvers family. And this came out in 1984, which the year later they would publish Crisis on Infinite Earths, which would feature the death of Supergirl as its big climactic moment. So you almost feel DC weren't working with them on this. They were just off making a film and not consulting what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another one like they did with the original Superman movie, where they extended it when they had it on TV because they had this deal that they would get paid based on how many minutes or something. So they actually threw in some extra scenes just to make it really, really long. I've not seen the extra long version. Don't really want to be honest with you.
So 3 hours?
Yeah, apparently so. And they did the same with Superman. I think Superman 1, maybe Superman 2. And to the extent it ended up being broadcast over 2 nights, they made it so long. The Salkins were not necessarily good they got the films made, but...
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was all in it for the money. And the other thing that I found that was quite interesting is the cinematographer, the director of photography, was the chap who did Return of the Jedi.
Huh.
Which is fairly interesting. Yeah. And I can see it because it was good enough and felt real world, the filming in the forest and so on, without being special.
Yeah.
There's nothing in Return of the Jedi that is a great shot.
Yeah.
This had the same. There's nothing in this like, oh, that was at least good. I liked that. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Helen Slater did the hands on hips thing very well.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think she was one of the best bits in the film.
Yeah. Do we think there's anything from this that's going to change the way you watch Supergirl? That's going to come into it? How you see her mother when she's on screen?
No, because I've pretty much forgotten most of the film already.
Yeah. And it's been less than 24 hours since we watched it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So we're expecting the Arrowverse movies to be back on in probably another week or so. So what we're going to be doing next week is a recap of the first half of the season, or the first 9 episodes that we've had on TV. And we're going to talk about what we think is coming and a quick review of what we've enjoyed so far.
Sounds good.
So join us next week for that. If you have any thoughts, questions or comments, you can use the hashtag ATAV on Twitter or find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter as Eloquent Gushing. If you want to support us, check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/eloquentgushing, and visit the homepage, eloquentgushing.com, where you can check out all the other shows we do, as well as sign up for our weekly newsletter to update you with what's going on. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you across the Arrowverse.
Across the Arrowverse is an Eloquent Gushing production. For more shows you'll love, please visit eloquentgushing.com.